Is the agencies there? Our bad. I was busy reading.
About ourselves.
It's a fact. We back, agency. We got the most special guest ever, all the time.
Hey.
Elisa. Here with Mensah Bey. Elisa's illustrated methods. That's fine. We all got our own brands.
I want an agent name.
All that. I want an illustrated Melanin drawing.
Not for your birthday.
Which one? Oh, alright. I don't remember it. Oh, you are. You do got an agent name. It's Dwarfy Agent. My annual painting of Elisa. You have now entered the agency. There we go. And today I want to do a recap of my project with Norfolk Arts, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Virginia, and Norfolk Police Department. Just to do a recap of the days that we worked on the project, the celebration day. I can briefly talk about how it came about. Norfolk Arts applied for a grant with Bloomberg Philanthropies to do an asphalt art project in their city. Norfolk Arts reached out to Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Virginia and Norfolk Police Department to collaborate on the grant. They won the grant, put out a request for proposals from artists to apply. All that happened, and then I see the request for proposal. I put my stuff together, put my portfolio together, send out like 5-10 images, whatever they request, my accolades, what I expect to do for the project, because in the prospectus they talk about what the project's about, and so you respond to that, right? Using a lot of words that they use.
It's just like a job application.
Yeah, that's honestly. And also have the work to back it up though. So me having a little bit of experience in doing the asphalt art and knowing how materials work on asphalt, I think it made me a high candidate, as well as just my know-how for the project and my relationship to community engagement, things like that in my work. So I applied, got raving reviews. They offered me a position. I accepted. Finance was involved because that's important. Don't just do things for free if they offer money.
Okay. Finance was involved.
And then it went into a phase of me trying to come up with a design. So I didn't need a design at this point. I didn't need a design until after I got accepted. So when it comes to making the design, for me, I need to know the dimensions first. They say you paint the street, and I was like, I don't know what I'm working with to know what kind of composition to come up with. And now I'm trying to figure out, where do I start with this? I'll insert some footage from my computer here. So I had to come up with a design, got some dimensions, worked on designs, yada yada, bada bada. But it wasn't until I realized my process about the project that I realized how I needed to translate design on computer to design on street, which turned me into a field engineer, which I have experience from, which turned into a bunch of math and measurements. Just know that 2 foot 6 inches is 2.5 feet.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
She said something. And so, so we're going to push this forward to introduce her part in this project now. So, as you all know, Elisa lives in San Diego. She had some free time around the time this project was going to go down. So, with the money that I received from this project, I flew her out and asked if she would like to help me in this project. So, it was in reverse. What was your response?
You want my real response?
I mean, you here, so I think your real response is that you can't.
Ain't nothing one of my selfish response first, and then my real response.
We
Anyway,
can talk about your real life.
I came because I had the free time, even though I had stuff that I needed or wanted to get done, rather. But for the cause, for the culture, for the love, I came out and it was dope. Like, the whole experience was definitely worth it.
And so through a couple of phone calls and figuring out the dates that she would show up, which happened to be the day before the project started. night before the project started. You asked me what I would need from you.
Yes.
Right. What did I need from you? Everything. Correct. So my biggest worry was just the layout, getting started.
Gritting.
So this project was going to be 3 days of doing it. Mind you, the size, right, dimensions. So the size of the project was 24 feet wide for the street width, and then lengthwise up to 100 feet. And so, in trying to translate that, I realized that there was a lot of work that I couldn't do on my own as far as like planning it out and laying out the design. I felt like I needed somebody, a dedicated person to help me that, as other things might have been happening in that preparation time, we could stay focused. I initially did not think of Elisa for that.
Nope, sure didn't.
We're going to be transparent. I had a previous classmate, Chris Kozak. I reached out to him. But congratulations to him and his wife. They recently had a child. And so he was on daddy duty for the week. Or at least for those morning parts. And so he unfortunately couldn't make it out, which allowed me to lean on Elisa to help me in this project, to help me with the layout. And trusting, we went to school together too though, so I knew she knew what's up. We come from the same trade. So yeah, I had a lot of measurements, right? So we can get into that. Because the artist in me made a big old blueprint, which had like, super official. Like somebody should come get one of these. There's 2 of them. There's only 2 that exist right now. They got all this like signage and all that. I thought.
Like been away at this point.
Yeah. Perfect. Then I can use my big pointer.
Oh my god.
We'll get to this later. Right. So there's 10-foot marks on here, and that was honestly I determined I needed that just so I could get a feel and a sense for where 10 feet was. But I was trying not to use that to cater the design to. But that was that. So I made a grid for that. But that's just a simple. This ain't even what, you know what I mean? Because you see all this background stuff? Flip. That's where all the work was. So what you can't really probably see, but I might upload it to digital, is that I measured out where all of these lines interact on here. And remember, I'm working on a screen that's this big. It's like 13 inches on my computer. And so I had to, this is 1/8 of the scale of the actual design. So it was mad math I had to do for that. So don't let people know I love math as well as making art. So measured all that out on each side around where all these things interact with the edge of the design. And then just did a couple of measurements on the inside. For some of these points, they were just like major points where like I just had long lines that interacted with other lines. And then what Elisa and I did on that day of the project is we measured out all the way down 10 foot or every 10 feet to make our initial grid. And then we went back and measured all of the smaller increments for all of where the lines intersected. And then we went in and measured and started like measuring and popping lines for where all these shapes exist. And the pin marks here we decided to do once we got through, once we knew what lines we did, so we wouldn't get confused as we move forward. Because all of the lines, once we popped them, all were the same color, just pop blue chalk line that we use with this. I shouldn't do this in the house. It's not smart. It's not smart. Let's close that. So we got a chalk line to do all that.
Is that when I asked you why are you using blue and not red?
Yeah. Because right, most of the design on the background is blue. She's like, why use blue and not like a different color? And so I told her that red chalk in this type of chalk lining is permanent. Somehow, some way, some science reason, red chalk is permanent. So if I pop red chalk line in the street, that red chalk line is gonna stay there. So yeah, that's why I use blue, even though it got a little difficult to see at times. The side where she was popping at, because the street was uneven, didn't seem to pop. But it was because of a lot of stuff we learned along the way, which was fun to learn together. Oh.
Stop.
So we did all this in one day, right? We mapped it out. Actually, we laid out the design. We completely laid out the design before 12 o'clock. We get out there and
yeah, we didn't start.
We had to wait.
9:30.
Yeah, so yeah, probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock we started laying out the design, and It was going a lot quicker than I expected, I would say.
It's moving.
Yeah. Oh, we cruising. Oh, this is us. And we mapped it out, put it down, and it was highly successful. We found a couple of mistakes as we were laying out, and we were able to fix it. But as we laid out, when other people that were out there that were helping with the setup got free, they asked what they could do, and that's when tape came involved.
Tape.
Gorilla tape is what it is, and so that got started. All this stuff got started before lunch. So we used Gorilla Tape, which was suggested by Bloomberg's tech team, because of the nature of the street. In my work, I usually just use painter's tape, but I'm just putting it on like a flat, super smooth, flat surface. So we had to find something that was, a little bit more, a little stronger, and will hold to the ground. But and it held to the ground pretty well. And so we had, everyone else lay that out while we were popping the rest of the lines. And then at lunch, like we stayed a little bit past lunch because I wanted to finish mapping out the center design before lunch because we were so close. And then that way we'd come back after lunch and just tape. So when we got back after lunch, that's when volunteers showed up. And so I put 4 people on tape duty just to finish off the taping, which was really dope to like put people onto something that I normally do all on my own and trust them with it. And they did well. Honestly, all the volunteers did really well with that. So as they did that, some other volunteers started showing up too in that 1 to 3 o'clock session. And so I started to put them on the task of painting because it was, there were some shapes that could be painted. So my goal was to start from this side. Was this side? Yeah, it was. Start from this side, paint this, have the other people paint this side coming this way, and then I could, me and Elisa worked on painting this or mapping out which colors were which in these sections so that people could come in and paint behind us. And again, everybody did really well at reading that and filling it in. Because it got to a point where I saw somebody just like, the people that were working this way, moving this way, that I hadn't talked to about this yet, by the time they got to it, they didn't even like ask.
Yeah,
they just started painting.
It was great.
And I was like, word, I could go think about other things.
Yeah.
I don't know, after that was just like painting the rest of the day. We just finished out that color. But as I realized, that 3 to 5 o'clock was the second session. And at 3 o'clock, I was like, man, I had a goal that I wanted to get the drawing of the figure done on one side on the first day so that I can come in and just start painting the next day, which meant more measuring, more popping line, and then some drawing. So when it got around 4 o'clock maybe, pulled Elisa aside again while we put other people on like double coat duty just to get all the shapes painted with some good quality. And but then we couldn't pop line yet.
Some paint was wet.
No. After the paint was dry, the tape had to come up first. We had to pull the tape up so we could pop line and it not be, interrupting stuff. So she and I started the tape pulling, which is I can't do this alone. My 3-year-old tape ball, which is now Spirit Bomb in the making, Dragon Ball Z reference. But so she and I started pulling up the tape on like the first half of the design so that we can pop the line, do the grading, all that. I just based it on like every 2.5 feet to make it square. So every 2.5 feet, we popped. Oh, I thought you reacted to that. You're just gonna leave it alone now? Cool. So anyway, we measured out every 2.5 feet for the section that needed to be gridded out. Which, all right. So I had these minis as well, right? This is what I passed out to people as they came. I had like 14 of them. So as they came and needed to know what to paint, I just passed them out this, gave them the orientation, said go for it.
Is that your idea? This?
Yes.
That's
all
smart.
of this is my idea.
Okay. But it's smart.
It is. Thank you. So yeah, this is where we gridded out in this section here. I know you don't AutoZone. So yeah, we gridded out this section so that I could draw this figure on the first day. Right, 2.5 feet. So yeah, we popped those every 2.5 feet that way.
Just 2 feet 6 inches, people.
2 feet 6 inches.
2 feet 6 inches.
Don't be out here thinking about 2.5s.
Don't do it, because it's not right.
Ain't correct. So by the end of the first day, I think we stayed a little bit longer, but I went on and drew out my figure here using my
What you used?
handy dandy walkie chalk. I used red chalk though, so that I wouldn't get confused with all the blue and white as I was drawing. It breaks down. And this is for kids. I mean, it's for ages like 4 and up, and I'm up, so I could use this. Worked out pretty well after the gridding. Also, I realized in my gridding that I moved a block lower than I had planned because I couldn't see the part that wasn't a full block at the top of the design, which is this part up here. So when I read it as, this side actually, up here. So the whole design shifted like a block down, but it didn't affect anything, honestly. So yeah, drew that out, went home sore, came back the next day.
Sore.
But I did that because we have volunteers coming at 10 o'clock the next day, and so I wanted to have something for them to get started with.